Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the city's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about a program that is one of the best known programs that helps the homeless in our area. And it's a coalition of churches and a nonprofit organization called HELP that combine to provide evening shelter for homeless people. And I've always thought of that as a winter program, but they are expanding. And so let me introduce you to Charlotte Dillow. And Charlotte runs the organization HELP. So tell us a little bit about A Night's Welcome. This program has been around for a while.
A Night's Welcome was founded in 1994. HELP realized the need for emergency winter shelter, and it was our hope to provide respite from the elements during the coldest winter months here in Hampton. So we opened in partnership with member congregations, and what that means is that area congregations will take typically a host week. They become the host site, and we open in the evenings. We open the doors at 6 p.m. for our local homeless community to come in and receive overnight shelter, and then we close the next morning around 7. They're on their own during the day, and they come back and repeat that every evening. For years, we ran that shelter for about 20 weeks, and then we were able to increase it to 22, and then the city helped us with some additional funding to open it for 24, and then this season, we're going to be opening it for 28 weeks. So we have expanded, and we're kind of not just in the winter months, but into some of the hurricane season still, and it is some of the rainy season in April.
So what is that like? When the church hosts, it is often at their church, but sometimes maybe their church isn't big enough or doesn't have the right facilities, and their congregation goes to another church, right?
Yes, we have a wide variety of ways that our partnering congregations help us. For example, we have a church that does not have a kitchen, and so they are partnering with another church right next door to them that will be able to host the homeless, and so the two congregations blend together, and they take that week and they partner with providing food and volunteers. Some churches don't have that capability at all, so they will partner with another church and provide resources. Mm-hmm. We have some aging congregations that used to do A Night's Welcome, and they're just not able to do it anymore, but they still can financially support the program, or they can bake desserts, or they can, it's lasagna night, so we have 8 folks making lasagnas that they're able to provide for that particular night's shelter.
That's great. And I need to correct myself because I'm tending to say churches, and it really is congregations because it isn't just Christian churches who are involved. You
Absolutely.
have other faiths as well.
We are ecumenical. So, for example, our friends at Rodolph Shalom Temple typically take what we know is Christmas week, so that there is a Christian church that maybe offer that week, so that the Jewish temple will take that week of hosting for us, which is very nice. I mean, it is truly an ecumenical effort.
Mm-hmm. That's important to remember, and
yes.
I apologize for that.
No problem.
Charlotte, how many people tend to show up? And I'm sure it varies based on the weather and the need and the location, but how many people do you see, on a given night?
Over the years, it has changed drastically. When we first opened the doors in 1994, 20 to 30 folks in an evening was a big deal. And if we saw one lady, that was really a big deal.
So it really was homeless men, and often kind of chronically
Absolutely.
homeless men. Okay.
Now, over the years, we've had an increase in families. We've had an increase in single females that come to visit us. On any given night now, we could have 15 to 25 single females in the shelter, which is not unusual for us. We range in number from 50 to 95 folks on any given night.
Wow, that is so many more than I expected. And some of those are families, right? Are
Absolutely.
there children involved too?
Children involved as well. Now, over the past few years, we have changed our philosophy in the way we do things, and we've really started doing some intense case management and trying to get these folks out of their situation. We have always brought services in to provide at our winter shelter program, counseling services, support services that folks may need, but we had to get to the bottom of why they were homeless and help them work on their self-sufficiency. And so last year we embarked on a very different program and some really intense in case management, and have been able to shelter about 50 folks so far into permanent supportive housing through a variety of ways, through help programs, through other community partners, and actually placing people in homes. So we know that our numbers will be significantly lower this year because of those efforts and the efforts of our community partners.
So those community partners then have places that people can stay on a longer term, daily basis.
Yes, absolutely. They permanent supportive housing. We've partnered with an organization in Williamsburg that has homes that they are able to utilize. We have homes. We have partnered with one of our local churches, Pine Chapel Baptist Church, who has given us their church parsonage, and we're able to shelter single females there. So any and every resource that we can connect with or that will connect with us, we are reaching out to be able to house our homeless.
Well, and I would imagine that having different pockets for people that suits them better, that makes it a little easier to manage, because I would guess that there aren't that many congregations that could really house 100 people, house and feed and monitor 100 people a night. That's
Absolutely.
A huge operation.
It is a big process.
Why are the numbers so big?
Recently this recession has really caused a lot of folks to lose their homes, not able to double up in family situations like they have been in the past. So we have seen numbers increase. There is a survey that we do every year with our local continuum of care, and it's called the Point in Time Survey. And if I recall the numbers, we do it every year in January, and on one given night in a 24-hour period, we do our best to count all of the homeless families, children, individuals that are in our community. So January of 2012, I believe the number was almost 700. I want to say it was maybe 681. And those were homeless in the Hampton, Newport News community that we were able to find and count.
Right.
We as organizations know there were so many more folks that we were not able to get to. A good number of those folks were veterans. A good number were chronically homeless, dual diagnosed, meaning they had a substance abuse a problem and also mental health concerns. Mm-hmm. We're able to bring all of those resources to our winter shelter program to help our folks get the necessary treatments that they need.
So bringing them into the shelter not only shelters them for the night, keeps them out of the cold, but it helps you get to know them and figure out what that root cause is. And sometimes it's treatable. It could be they need a medication or they need substance abuse counseling. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what they need is a job. So you would work toward making them ready for that.
We do the same thing at Night's Welcome now that we do at our other sheltering programs, in that we sit down with the individual and we do goals. And we make sure that those goals are mutually agreed upon. So for example, if you come into the shelter and you don't have an ID, the first thing we're going to try to do is work with you to get an ID. Why can't you get it? You don't have the money for it. You don't have your birth certificate. How can we work with you? Because that's the start of everything, so you can continue to get services. So we just worked with a gentleman, and after 4 years of trying to work with him and get his birth certificate, he got that, and we had a community day when we did our groundbreaking for our day center back the 1st of August, and he came in and we had the DMV mobile unit there.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, if you partner with them.
Yes, we do, and they were able to help him get it. He had his necessary documentation, and we were proud to pay for his ID, and so we have a wonderful picture now on our Facebook page of him smiling with his ID.
Well, that's great. And things like a Social Security card. I mean, if you are homeless, if you've lost all those resources, you lose that very, very important paperwork all too often.
Yes.
Well, tell me some more stories. Like, I'm going to guess that you have dealt with people over the years and that you know some people. And so without using names, maybe you want to just share a couple success stories of people who you met in the Night's Welcome program who now maybe no longer need your services.
Sure. One of the stories that comes to mind right now is a gentleman named Sarge, and he allows us to tell this story.
Okay.
It's very public, and it actually is on our Facebook. There's a video I encourage people to go and look at. Sarge, I had never known him a day sober. He was with us for a number of years. He's probably one of the first homeless folks that I met when I began with the program. And last summer, we were down in downtown Hampton late in the evening checking on some of our folks. It was a hot day, and it was probably 10, 11 o'clock at night, and we were down under one of the places that we know that they frequent. And he was not in good condition. And he had let himself really go to the point where he had atrophy in his muscles because he was laying around so much.
Oh, wow.
doing his thing, and he was really having a hard time. We were really worried about him, and so one of the folks, one of our volunteers said, you know, you are not going to do well. You are not going to make it here. And he remembered some of those very strong words that were said to him. And as intoxicated as he was, I was shocked the next few days that he remembered. But he came to us the next time we made our rotation around to check on him a few nights later, and he said, I've got to get out of this condition. And he did. And he has been 10 months sober. He is living in one of our supportive housing units. He is actually working for us. He still has some physical limitations, so he's not able to hold a regular job, if you will, but he is a neatnik and he likes to clean. So he is actually cleaning our medical and dental offices for us, and that is his way of giving back. He also works in our clothing closet for us and keeps that organized. He likes to cut grass, so he is cutting the grass at our properties. And so he is just looking at him and looking at his face and looking at the smile on his face is the reason we do what we do every day.
And that was a lot of years in coming, right? So you helped him on a, you know, what he can do, what he can accept basis for
years, probably
like a dozen years.
I've known him probably 12 to 14 years.
Wow.
And so that's what we do. It doesn't happen overnight. And if you equate it to someone that has any type of disorder, we all have something. I've battled with eating, overeating. Someone else may have battled with a substance abuse problem, drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be. And it takes you saying, I'm ready. I'm done with this. You
can't get someone to that point until they're ready to get there.
Absolutely. I ran into a former homeless client the other day down at the bus stop. I was getting a bus pass for someone. And I said, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you. I didn't see you last year. And he said, I was tired of being tired. He said, I was sick to death of drinking. He said, I met a wonderful lady that said, enough is enough. And he said, I have my own place now. I'm working. And he said, I'm working for me. I'm not working to drink. He said, I was using the shelter. I was coming in. I was using all my money on my substance problem. And he said, now I'm doing very well. And he looked wonderful, the smile on his face. And he just said, you know, thank you for all that you all did for us to encourage me. And I was just tired of being tired.
So is that why you do what you do?
That is why I do what I do. Can
I mean,
you
really,
tell
I'm
from
like
me smiling?
tearing up.
I know.
It is really, you know, such an emotional thing to be able to help someone survive through the bad years so that they can have, you know, a future.
We just moved a young family into one of our transitional housing units. They had come to one of our member congregations, Ebenezer Baptist Church. They found their way there. Young family traveling through the area, got stuck here, and the church adopted them. They had two young daughters, I believe a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and they were just in dire straits, and they were living in a hotel and not knowing where they were going to go next. And now they are living in one of our transitional units and doing very well. And again, the smile on their face makes us know that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We rallied the troops. They needed diapers, they needed pots and pans, they needed all of these things. Right. And the community is just a wealth of resources in helping folks when we can get the need out and they know what we need.
That's wonderful. Okay, so back to A Night's Welcome. The program will be longer this year, and you said 28 weeks.
Yes, we'll begin October 13th.
How many congregations do you have participating?
Right now we have 24 host sites. We are still looking for 4 more host sites. We have had several of our member congregations step up and say that they will do a couple of weeks for us.
That's what I was going to say.
So
it's
that
hard
is
to
huge.
Find. Yeah.
That is huge. We have folks that have said, okay, you can use our building, our facility here at the church, but can you get some extra volunteers? So that is another way folks can help us if they'd like to volunteer for the Winter Shelter Program. We'd love to have them.
Okay, so suppose I'm, you know, maybe a church member or maybe not a church member, but I'm not already involved in this program. How would I go about saying I could help?
If you will visit our website at helpushelpyou.org, and there is a tab on there that you can fill out to be a volunteer and say you'd like to help the homeless or volunteer with our Winter Shelter Program. We'll get right back with you and put you to work.
That sounds great. And you know, that volunteer effort, I don't even know if you could calculate this, but what would it cost if you didn't have all these volunteers. If you were, somehow having to pay to have a building and heat and cool the building and have a staff that monitored folks overnight.
We did a calculation a few years ago with the number of volunteers, the number of hours they worked, the heating and cooling bills, for the churches and the water, and it was well over $250,000 just for the winter shelter in what folks gave in kind for the food and the volunteer hours. Sometimes during winter shelter, folks are working upwards of almost 20,000 volunteer hours, and when you equate that with the national average, and I'm not sure if that's now $10 or $11 for a volunteer hour, that's a lot of money.
That is tremendous, that people are able and willing to give of their time to help other people. It speaks well of our congregations, our faith community, but also the additional volunteers.
Yes, we could not do it without our member congregations and our volunteers that so faithfully have served those in need in our community, and we certainly appreciate them and the community for supporting this organization and those in need or those that are in crisis. We have changed our vision statement, and our vision statement now is that we are uplifting those in crisis and ending homelessness, and we are doing that one person at a time.
That's wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, talking to you is a very uplifting experience for me as well, and it's enthusiastic, to see. I think some of us think of homelessness and it's just this, what can I do? It's a chronic problem, and you have all kinds of positive stories and things to tell. So
I thank you very much, and I would say that when you're meeting folks on the street, the best thing you can do is support a local agency, whether it's HELP or another organization. Typically giving folks, cash donations is not a great thing to do, and we've all done it. I've done it over the years.
But those money, it may very well be going to
something else
problem instead of,
Yes, so we encourage folks to give their tangible donations directly to an organization because there's typically a history with the individual, and different organizations have that history, and we know we can further support them
and you can
by
stretch
directly
the
giving
dollars
them.
a little more
Absolutely.
too. You have deals and partnerships that help bring in more for.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. It's great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having us.
And thank you for watching. I hope you will think about volunteering or getting your congregation involved in a night's welcome.